This current study is on the relation between fading affect bias and grit, personality, and affect across video game and non-video game events. This study is from Christopher Newport University for the Marcus 2020 conference, with current speakers Stephanie LeRoy and co-authors of this poster, Kaylee Harris, Lauren Chadwick, Emma Friedman, Emily Peterson, Francesca Pandolf, Jody Cleaver, Hannah Brown, Angelica Forendo, and our faculty advisor, Dr. Jeffrey Gibbons. To understand the current study, we must first go over the fading affect bias, also known as FAB. Demonstrated by previous research, FAB is when negative emotions fade faster and to a greater extent than positive emotions. Past research has also shown the relation between video gameplay and negative affect, and how video gameplay disrupts the FAB. The current study is a replication of a previous study by Gibbons and Bolden in 2019, and will investigate the relation video gameplay. This is across video game and non-video game related events. Our study, however, differs from previous research as we include a grit scale in our questionnaires. The current study had 4 hypotheses. We hypothesized that we would have a robust FAB, that FAB will be larger for video game events than for non-video game events. FAB was expected to be positively related to healthy outcomes and negatively related to negative outcomes. And FAB would be positively related to IGDS and video game hours for video game events, and negatively related to the IGDS and video game hours for non-video game events. The current study had approximately 270 male and female participants ranging from 18 to 23 years of age. All participants were CNU students in a psychology course seeking credit through our SONA research system. Our measures included a demographics questionnaire, the mini marker scale, PANIS, the D1 and IGDS questionnaires, as well as the grit scale and video game and non-video game event reports. For our research, we counterbalanced event order using a Latin square and received informed consent from the participants before the questionnaires were handed out. After the questionnaires were handed out, the participants were asked to complete a video game and non-video game event report, which included the descriptions of 2 positive, 2 negative video game events, and 2 positive and 2 negative non-video game events. They were also asked to rate their emotions at the time of the event and at the time of the study, ranging from a scale of -3 being extremely unpleasant to +3 being extremely pleasant. They were also asked to describe the frequency of their thinking and or talking about the event on a scale of 1 to 6, 1 being never or not at all, to 6 being often or always. They also recorded when fading of the emotions began and when the fading of the emotions ended. After the participants finished filling out the questionnaires, they were debriefed about the experiment. The results showed significant support for our first, third, and fourth hypotheses. Looking at the first 5 graphs, we see FAB across negative variables. These 5 variables are neuroticism, depression, anxiety, stress, and negative PANIS. We see that in the first quintile, the FAB is quite large, and towards the 5th quintile, we see that FAB shrinks, showing a negative relation for FAB and negative variables. We see the opposite relation in the next 2 graphs, where FAB is positively related to positive variables of positive PANIS and grit. This is shown by a small FAB in the first quintile and a significant increase by the 5th quintile. In Figure 8, we see that as quintiles of IGDS increase, non-video game FAB decreases while video game increases. This goes to show as video game usage increases, the FAB for non-video game events no longer regulates emotions healthily, but it does for video game events, which is not what you want for an emotional regulator in daily life. In figures 9a through 9e, we see FAB across neuroticism for 5 quintiles of video game hours. For figure 9a, we look at the first quintile for video game hours, which is 0 hours played. We see a large FAB in the first quintile of neuroticism, with a small FAB in the 5th quintile of neuroticism. This relation continues with 9b and 9c and even 9d, but we see that in 9e, while the FAB for the first quintile of neuroticism is still large, it increases as it gets to the 90th percentile or the 5th quintile of neuroticism. This shows as there is an increase in video games the relation between FAB and neuroticism changes as well. Overall, the results show that we have a strong FAB, but the FAB is not different across events. We have a lot of continuous moderators of FAB, but specifically the numbers of hours spent on activities that are not video games is negatively related to the FAB. So is neuroticism, negative PANIS, depression, anxiety, and stress. In contrast, the positive variables like positive PANIS and grit positively predicted the FAB. Future research on FAB in video games can also look into the effect of video game genre on FAB. This concludes the poster presentation. Stick around if you have any questions. There will be a question asking session afterwards. Thank you.